My daughter's fiancé demanded $50,000 for a wedding, or no wedding. My name is Anthony Romano. What Preston Whitfield IV didn't know was that his family's $4.2 million mansion was mortgaged through my bank. You see, Preston thought he was bullying some poor pizza shop owner. What he got instead was 24 hours later he was staring at foreclosure papers. Sometimes the most dangerous people are the ones who look harmless. I stayed completely silent during his racist rant. I nodded politely when he threatened to cancel my daughter's wedding, and then I made a decision that would destroy his entire world. By the way, if this story sounds familiar, maybe you've dealt with entitled people who think money makes them better than everyone else, hit that subscribe button. I'd love to know where you're watching from, especially if you've ever been underestimated because of your background. Trust me, you're going to want to hear how this ends. It all started 8 months ago when my daughter Anna brought home her fiancé. Anna had been dating Preston for 8 months when she finally brought him to our house in Federal Hill. I could see the disappointment in his eyes the moment he stepped out of his BMW and saw our neighborhood. Row houses, small yards, working families. I was wearing my usual Saturday clothes, jeans and a Providence College t-shirt that had seen better days. My 1995 Honda Civic with 240,000 miles sat in the driveway next to his spotless car. "So you're Anna's father," Preston said, extending a manicured hand. His Hermes belt probably cost more than most people make in a week. "Anna tells me you work in finance?" I noticed the pause, the careful word choice. "I work at a bank, yes." Anna jumped in quickly. "Dad's being modest. He's been with the same company for 25 years. What she didn't know was that I owned that company." Preston's smile was the kind rich people give to service workers. Polite, distant. He glanced around our modest living room, taking in the worn furniture, the family photos on the mantel, the framed picture of Anna's Stanford graduation. "Stanford," he said, examining the diploma. "Impressive. Must have been quite an investment for your family." The way he said investment made it clear he thought we'd struggled to afford it. He had no idea I'd paid her full tuition, 4 years, $320,000, without touching a penny of my real assets. "Anna worked very hard," I said simply. "Of course. Merit scholarships help so much, don't they?" Anna's face reddened. She'd never told him about any scholarships because there weren't any. She thought her father had taken out loans, made sacrifices. She didn't know that Stanford's yearly tuition was less than what Romano Financial made in an hour. "Dad," Anna said quietly, "Preston's family is hosting an engagement party next month at the yacht club." "The Newport Country Club," Preston added. "Been in my family for 4 generations. He was marking territory, establishing hierarchy, old money versus whatever he thought we were." "That sounds wonderful," I said. "It will be," Preston replied. "Though I have to be honest, Mr. Romano. Anna and I have been discussing the wedding, and we have some concerns about the venue situation." Here it comes, I thought. "Anna showed me the reception hall you suggested, Russo's on Federal Hill." He pronounced it like it was painful. "I'm sure it's adequate for certain celebrations, but our guest list includes partners from my law firm, family friends, business associates, people who expect a certain standard." Anna looked mortified. "Preston, we talked about this. I know, sweetheart, and I want to make this work. But we need to be realistic about what kind of wedding represents both our families appropriately. Both our families. He meant his family. Ours was just along for the ride. I kept my expression neutral, but inside something was shifting. I'd spent 15 years building Romano Financial from a single storefront loan office to 80 branches across New England. I'd done it quietly, deliberately, always staying below the radar. Anna thought I was just another bank employee because I wanted her to succeed on her own merit, not because of my money. But watching this entitled kid dismiss my daughter's happiness for the sake of his social status, that was testing my patience. "What did you have in mind?" I asked. Preston brightened. "There's a beautiful venue in Newport, Oceanside, where people like us typically," he caught himself, "where the ceremony would be more appropriate for our combined social circles. People like us. Not people like me." But he had no idea what people like me could really do. The call came on a Tuesday evening while I was reviewing quarterly reports in my home office. Anna's voice was strained. "Dad, can you come over? Preston and I need to talk to you about something important." 20 minutes later, I was sitting in their Cambridge apartment, a place I'd helped Anna secure, but she thought she was renting with student loan money. Preston had clearly been pacing. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, his tie loosened. "Mr. Romano," he began, "I want to be direct. Anna and I have been looking at wedding venues, and we've found the perfect location, the Chandler at Cliff Walk in Newport.
I knew the place. Oceanside Elegance. $1,500 per person, minimum. It's beautiful, Anna said quietly. But it's expensive. How expensive? I asked. Preston cleared his throat.
For the guest list we're planning, 200 people, the total would be approximately $300,000. Anna's face went pale. I could see her doing the math, thinking about her father's imaginary bank salary, wondering how we'd possibly afford it. That's quite a bit, I said. Which is why, Preston continued, I've been thinking about how to make this work for everyone. My family has connections at the venue. We could potentially get the cost down to, let's say $50,000 from your side. $50,000, like he was doing us a favor. The thing is, he went on, this really needs to be decided soon. The Chandler books up years in advance. If we don't secure the date this week, we'll lose it. An ultimatum wrapped in urgency. Anna was staring at her hands. Dad, you don't have to. Actually, I do, Preston interrupted. Anna, sweetheart, you know how important this is to both our families. My parents have already started planning. They've invited the senator, the mayor, partners from 3 law firms. This isn't just a wedding, it's a networking event that will benefit both of us for years to come. Both of us. Again, he meant himself. And if we can't make it work? I asked. Preston's mask slipped for just a moment. Well, then we'd have to seriously reconsider our timeline. Maybe postpone until we can find something more financially feasible. The threat was clear. $50,000 or no wedding. Anna's eyes filled with tears. Preston, you're putting my father in an impossible position. I'm being realistic about our situation, he replied. Anna, your father works at a community bank. He's probably making, what, $60,000 a year? Asking him to contribute $50,000 to a wedding is already generous considering the proportional investment. $60,000 a year. If only he knew. I watched my daughter's face crumble. She was caught between the man she loved and the father she thought couldn't afford to give her the wedding of her dreams. What she didn't know was that $50,000 was what Romano Financial made in less than 3 hours. But more than the money, Preston had just revealed something crucial. He saw our family as beneath his. We were the charity case he was graciously allowing into his circle, as long as we paid the admission fee. I need some time to think about this, I said. Of course, Preston said quickly, but like I mentioned, we really need an answer by Friday. The Chandler won't hold the date much longer. 3 days. He was giving me 3 days to come up with money he assumed I didn't have. After I left their apartment, I sat in my Honda for a long time thinking. Anna was miserable. She was choosing between her family's financial security and her future happiness, all because Preston was too proud to have a wedding that didn't impress his country club friends. But here's what Preston didn't understand. I'd spent 25 years in banking. I'd learned to recognize certain patterns. Entitlement, arrogance, the assumption that money equals worth, and I'd also learned that information is power. That night, I called my compliance department. Not unusual for a bank president to request account reviews. By Thursday morning, I had a complete picture of the Whitfield family's financial situation, Preston's trust fund, his father's business ventures, and most interestingly, the mortgage on their family estate, the beautiful 8-bedroom colonial in Newport, the one Preston had grown up in, the one his parents used for entertaining senators and mayors. It was mortgaged through Romano Financial for $4.2 million. And according to our compliance review, there were some very interesting character clauses in that mortgage agreement. Friday afternoon came, and Preston called exactly at 5 o'clock. I was in my office at Romano Financial headquarters, having just finished reviewing the Whitfield mortgage file with my legal team. Mr. Romano, I hope you've had time to consider our conversation. I have. Great. So what's the decision on the venue contribution? I leaned back in my chair. The chair in the office Preston thought belonged to someone else entirely. Preston, I have a question for you first. Of course. You mentioned that this wedding represents both our families. I'm curious what you think my family brings to this partnership. There was a pause. Well, Anna, obviously, she's wonderful, smart, beautiful, beyond Anna. What do you think the Romano family contributes? Another pause, longer this time. I'm not sure I understand the question. You've made it clear that your family has connections, social standing, financial resources. What do you think we offer in return? I could practically hear him searching for a diplomatic answer. Every family has their own unique strengths. Unique strengths, such as, Mr. Romano, I'm not sure where this is going. I'm trying to understand why you think $50,000 is a reasonable request from a family you clearly consider financially inferior. The silence stretched. When he spoke again, his voice had an edge. I never said you were financially inferior. You said I probably make $60,000 a year. That was an estimate based on average bank employee salaries. Which bank? What? Which bank did you research for those salary estimates? It was a general... You assumed, Preston. You saw my car, my clothes, my neighborhood, and you made assumptions about what kind of man your fiancé's father is. His breathing changed. I could hear him getting defensive. Mr. Romano, if you're upset about the financial arrangement, we can discuss alternatives. Such as? Well, if 50,000 is too much, perhaps we could look at a smaller venue. Something more suited to everyone's budget. More suited to everyone's budget. Translation, cheaper, more appropriate for people like us. Or, I said, we could look at this from a different angle. What do you mean? Tell me about your family's finances, Preston. Excuse me? You've analyzed mine. 60,000 a year, you said. Community bank employee, limited resources. Turnabout seems fair. That's completely inappropriate. Is it? You're asking me to contribute $50,000 to an event that benefits your social standing? Shouldn't I know whether your family can actually afford their portion? His voice rose. My family has been in Newport for 4 generations. That's not what I asked. We own property. Mortgaged property? Dead silence. Preston? What are you implying? I kept my voice level. I'm not implying anything. I'm asking direct questions about financial capacity, the same way you've been assessing mine. This is ridiculous. My family's financial situation is none of your business. But mine is yours? That's different. You're being asked to contribute, and your family isn't contributing? Of course we are, but how much? That's not 50,000, 100, more? I could hear him breathing hard. Mr. Romano, I don't appreciate this line of questioning. And I don't appreciate being treated like a charity case by someone who doesn't know the first thing about my actual situation. Your actual situation? You drive a 20-year-old Honda and live in Federal Hill. And what does that tell you about my priorities? It tells me you don't have money to waste on expensive cars and fancy neighborhoods. Or, I said quietly, it tells you that I don't need expensive cars and fancy neighborhoods to feel good about myself. Another long silence. Look, Preston said, his tone shifting to something meant to be conciliatory. Maybe we got off on the wrong foot here. The truth is, Anna is marrying into a family with certain expectations, social obligations. If your family can't meet those expectations financially, that's understandable. But we need to be realistic about what that means for the wedding, and frankly for Anna's future social position. There it was, the real message. Anna was marrying up, and our family needed to pay admission to the upper class, or accept a lower status permanently. So if I can't pay the $50,000, then we'll have to make adjustments. Find something more appropriate for the combined financial reality. And Anna's happiness? Anna will adjust. She's smart enough to understand that marriage involves compromise. Anna will adjust. Like she should be grateful for whatever scraps of dignity Preston was willing to throw her way. I see, I said. Preston, let me ask you one more question. What? Do you love my daughter? Of course I do. Enough to marry her if her family had no money at all? The pause that followed told me everything I needed to know. Mr. Romano, that's a hypothetical. No, Preston, it's the only question that matters. I hung up and looked at the Whitfield mortgage file on my desk. $4.2 million. Character clauses clearly defined. Legal grounds well established. Time for Preston to learn what financial reality actually looked like. That weekend, Anna invited me to lunch at a small cafe near Harvard Square. She looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes that reminded me of her mother during her hardest days at law school. Dad, about the wedding thing with Preston. Anna, you don't need to explain anything. But I do. She stirred her coffee without drinking it. He's not usually like this. The pressure from his family is intense. They have these expectations about status and appearances that I'm still learning to navigate. Learning to navigate. Like she was the one who needed to change. What kind of expectations? Well, for example, his mother asked me last week what my father does for work. When I said banking, she asked which firm. When I said community banking, she got this look. Anna trailed off. What kind of look? Like she was disappointed, but trying not to show it. I sipped my coffee and said nothing. And Preston's father keeps making these comments about self-made people and how much he respects families who've worked their way up. But the way he says it, it sounds like he's patting us on the head for trying so hard. How does that make you feel, honestly? Sometimes I wonder if I belong in that world at all. Last month, Preston took me to a dinner party at his parents' house. Everyone was talking about their vacation homes and their children's private schools and their charity galas. When someone asked what I did, I said I was finishing my MBA at Stanford. This woman, I think she was a judge's wife, said, "How wonderful that you're getting an education. That must be such a priority for families like yours." Families like yours. The condescension was unmistakable. What did you say? Nothing. I just smiled and changed the subject. But later Preston said I'd handled it well, like I'd passed some kind of test. My phone buzzed. A text from Maria, my sister and Romano Financial's VP of Operations. Compliance completed the Whitfield review. Character violations documented. Emergency board meeting scheduled for Monday. You want me to prepare the foreclosure paperwork? I typed back, yes, and prepare the trust fund freeze documentation as well. Anna noticed me checking my phone. Sorry, Dad. Work emergency? Something like that. I put the phone away. Anna, can I ask you something? Of course. Are you happy? She was quiet for a long moment. I love Preston, I do, but sometimes I feel like I'm auditioning for a role in his life instead of just living my life. What would happen if you stopped auditioning? What do you mean? What if you just showed up as yourself? As Anna Romano from Federal Hill, whose father works at a bank and drives an old Honda. What if you stopped trying to translate yourself into something they'd find acceptable? She looked down at her hands. I don't know if Preston would still want to marry me. The honesty in that statement broke my heart and solidified my resolve. My phone rang. The caller ID showed Romano Financial Legal Department. I should take this, I said to Anna. Give me 1 second. I answered. This is Tony. Mr. Romano, this is David from Legal. We've completed the documentation you requested. The Whitfield mortgage contains clear character violation clauses. We have grounds for immediate acceleration. Do you want us to proceed? Schedule it for first thing Monday morning. Full legal review. Should we notify the account holders? I looked at Anna, still staring at her coffee, still wondering if she was good enough for people who should be grateful she even looked in their direction. Not yet. I'll handle notifications personally. I hung up and turned back to Anna. Sorry about that. No problem. Banking emergencies, right? If only she knew what kind of banking emergency this was going to be. Anna, I want you to remember something. You never have to apologize for who you are or where you come from. Anyone who can't see your worth doesn't deserve you. She smiled sadly. Thanks, Dad. I just wish it was that simple. It was about to be. The yacht club invitation arrived on elegant cream cardstock. The Whitfield family cordially invites you to celebrate the engagement of Preston Whitfield IV and Anna Romano. Cocktails and dinner at the Newport Country Club, Saturday, April 20th, 7:30 in the evening. Jacket required. Anna called me that Tuesday, excited and nervous. Dad, Preston's parents want to meet you properly. His mother said it's important for the families to get acquainted before we start serious wedding planning. Before we start serious wedding planning. Translation, before they decide whether we're acceptable. I'll be there, I said. Great. And Dad, maybe wear your navy suit? The one from Anna's graduation. Even she was worried about appearances. Saturday evening, I drove my Honda to Newport, past Preston's family estate, the one mortgaged through Romano Financial, and pulled into the yacht club's valet area. The attendant looked at my car like it was contaminated, but took the keys with professional courtesy. Inside, the club was exactly what I'd expected. Dark wood, brass fixtures, oil paintings of old men who'd probably never worked a day in their lives. The kind of place where membership was inherited, not earned. I found Anna and Preston at the bar, surrounded by about 15 people. Preston wore a blazer that probably cost more than most people's monthly rent. Anna looked beautiful in a simple black dress, but I could see the tension in her shoulders. Dad, Anna waved me over. Everyone, this is my father, Anthony Romano. The introductions began. Preston's father, Reginald Whitfield III, a thin man with silver hair and the kind of handshake that was meant to measure your worth. Preston's mother, Catherine, who looked at my department store suit with barely concealed disdain. Mr. Romano, Reginald said, Preston tells me you work in banking. That's right. Which institution? Here we go. Romano Financial. I'm not familiar with it. Local credit union? Something like that. Catherine Whitfield joined the conversation. How lovely that you could take time off for this. Banking hours must be so restrictive. Before I could answer, Preston's law school friend jumped in. Wait, Romano Financial? Is that the place with the branch next to the Pizza Palace on Federal Hill? Several people laughed. Actually laughed. Banking services in ethnic neighborhoods, another friend said. Must be interesting clientele. Anna's face was burning red. Dad's been with the same company for 25 years. Loyalty is admirable, Reginald interrupted, though I imagine the advancement opportunities in community banking are somewhat limited. Preston put his arm around Anna. Mr. Romano's done well for himself. Anna managed to get through Stanford after all. Managed to get through Stanford. Like it was a miracle that someone from our family could achieve something so basic. Yes, Catherine added. Anna mentioned scholarships were involved. Anna opened her mouth to correct this, but I caught her eye and shook my head slightly. Let them think what they want to think. Education is important in our family, I said simply. Of course, Reginald said. Preston's told us about your resourcefulness regarding the wedding venue situation. 50,000 is quite a stretch for a family in your position. We appreciate the sacrifice. The sacrifice. Like I was selling blood to afford their son's wedding. Actually, Preston said, raising his voice so the whole group could hear, we're still working out some logistics. The venue we want requires a significant investment from both families. One of his mother's friends, an older woman dripping with diamonds, leaned in conspiratorially. The Chandler is divine, but so expensive. Maybe you should consider something more accessible. I know a lovely place in Cranston that does wonderful ethnic weddings. Ethnic weddings. I felt my jaw tighten. The thing is, Preston continued, Anna's family is dealing with some financial constraints. We're trying to find a solution that works for everyone. He was publicly humiliating us, making our supposed poverty part of the entertainment. Perhaps, Catherine suggested, you could have a lovely ceremony at Anna's family church and just do cocktails afterward. So much more intimate than these elaborate affairs. Anna looked like she wanted to disappear. This was her future family, discussing her wedding like it was a charity case they were graciously managing. You know, Reginald said, I remember when the Costellos married their daughter to that Portuguese fisherman. They had a beautiful ceremony at St. Maria's reception in the church hall. Paper plates, but lovely flowers. Sometimes simple is best. Paper plates. They were suggesting paper plates for my daughter's wedding. Preston laughed. Well, we're not quite at the paper plate stage yet, though Mr. Romano might need to get creative with the financing. The group chuckled. My daughter's financial situation was dinner party humor for these people. That's when something inside me shifted. I'd spent the evening listening to these people mock my family, my background, my supposed limitations. I'd watched them treat Anna like she should be grateful for their son's attention. I'd heard them reduce my daughter's wedding to a budget problem that they were benevolently trying to solve. But most importantly, I'd heard Preston say the words that would seal his fate. Your immigrant family needs to learn their place in America. The conversation had gotten quiet enough that his words carried across the room. I pulled out my phone and typed a quick text to Maria. Yacht Club. Now, bring the Whitfield files, foreclosure paperwork, and 2 board members. It's time. I looked around the group. All these people so certain of their superiority, so comfortable in their assumptions about who belonged where. You know, I said quietly, you're absolutely right about one thing. What's that? Reginald asked. $50,000 is quite a lot of money. Preston smiled, thinking I was conceding defeat. Especially, I continued, when you're about to lose $4.2 million. The laughter stopped. The confused silence lasted about 10 seconds before Reginald found his voice. I'm sorry, what did you say about $4.2 million? Dad, Anna whispered. What are you talking about? Before I could answer, I saw Maria entering the club's main dining room, followed by 2 men in expensive suits. She spotted me immediately and headed over, carrying a leather portfolio that everyone in banking would recognize as the kind that holds very important documents. Mr. Romano, she said as she approached, the emergency board meeting is complete. We have your authorization for the Whitfield account action. The blood drained from Reginald's face. Whitfield account. Maria looked around the group with professional politeness. Mr. Reginald Whitfield? I'm Maria Romano, Vice President of Operations at Romano Financial. We've been handling your family's mortgage for the past 8 years. Catherine's diamond bracelet clinked against her wine glass as her hand started trembling. There must be some mistake. No mistake, said one of the men with Maria. I'm James Patterson, Chairman of Romano Financial's Board of Directors. Mr. Romano, we've approved the action you requested. The account shows clear character clause violations. Preston looked confused. Wait, I don't understand. Mr. Romano, you said you work at Romano Financial, not for... I don't work at Romano Financial, I said calmly. I own Romano Financial. The silence that followed was absolute. You could hear the ice clinking in glasses from 3 tables away. Anna stared at me like I just announced I was from Mars. Dad, what? Romano Financial Group, Maria continued, opening her portfolio. 80 branches across New England, $2 billion in assets. Your father founded it 26 years ago with a $10,000 loan and built it into one of the region's largest privately held banking institutions. She handed me a document. The Whitfield Estate Mortgage, $4.2 million, originated in 2019. Current status: in violation of character clauses due to discriminatory behavior documented this evening. Preston's face had gone completely white. Character clauses? Standard provision in all Romano Financial mortgage contracts, said the board chairman. Borrowers agree to maintain community standards consistent with the bank's values. Discrimination based on national origin, economic status, or ethnic background constitutes grounds for immediate loan acceleration. Reginald found his voice. This is ridiculous. You can't call a mortgage because of a social conversation. Actually, Maria said, Mr. Romano has full discretionary authority over all lending decisions, and given tonight's documented statements regarding ethnic neighborhoods, families like yours, paper plates for ethnic weddings, and the direct quote about immigrant families needing to learn their place in America, the bank considers this a clear violation of community standards. The older woman with the diamonds, the one who'd suggested ethnic weddings, looked like she was about to faint. Furthermore, Maria continued, our investigation revealed that Preston Whitfield's trust fund, currently valued at approximately $600,000, is also managed through Romano Financial's private banking division. Preston made a choking sound. Which brings us to the compliance issue, said the board chairman. Trust fund management requires character verification. Mr. Whitfield's behavior raises serious questions about his fitness to manage inherited assets responsibly. Anna was staring at me with a mixture of shock, confusion, and something that might have been pride. Dad, is this real? Are you really? Anna, I said gently, your Stanford tuition was 4 years, $320,000. Paid in full, no loans. The reason I drive an old Honda isn't because I can't afford a new car. It's because I don't need a new car to know who I am. Catherine Whitfield finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. You've been lying to us this entire time. I haven't lied about anything. You assumed I was poor because I dress simply and drive an old car. You assumed I was powerless because I live in Federal Hill. You assumed I was beneath you because my family came from Italy instead of inheriting wealth from ancestors who never had to work for anything. But why didn't you tell us? Preston asked desperately. Because I wanted to see who you really were. I wanted to know if you loved my daughter enough to respect her family, regardless of what you thought our social status was. I gestured around the room. Instead, I watched you spend 8 months treating us like charity cases. I heard you laugh about ethnic neighborhoods and suggest paper plates for Anna's wedding. I listened to you demand $50,000 from a family you considered financially inferior. And tonight, I heard you tell me that my immigrant family needed to learn our place in America. Reginald tried to regain some composure. Mr. Romano, if there's been a misunderstanding... No misunderstanding, I said. You showed me exactly who you are, all of you, and now I'm showing you who I am. Maria handed me another document. Loan acceleration notice, 24-hour demand for full payment, $4.2 million, due Monday at 5 p.m. Legal grounds, character clause violations as documented by bank officers present this evening. You can't do this, Catherine said, panic creeping into her voice. Mrs. Whitfield, said the board chairman, your family signed the mortgage agreement. Character clauses are clearly defined. Your son's behavior tonight, demanding money from families he considers inferior, making disparaging comments about ethnic communities, treating potential in-laws with contempt based on perceived economic status, violates multiple provisions. Preston turned to Anna desperately. Anna, you can't let him do this. We're getting married. Are we? Anna asked quietly. Because 5 minutes ago, you were entertaining your friends by talking about how my family couldn't afford to give me a proper wedding. You told them my immigrant family needed to learn our place in America. That was just what, Preston? For the first time in 8 months, I saw my daughter's backbone, the strength that got her through Stanford, the Romano steel that I'd always known was there. Anna, Preston pleaded, your father is overreacting. This is all a misunderstanding. The misunderstanding, Anna said, her voice getting stronger, was thinking that I needed to apologize for my family to be worthy of yours. She turned to me. Dad, how long have you been planning this? Since the moment he told me my immigrant family needed to learn our place in America. Anna nodded slowly. And the $50,000 he demanded is what Romano Financial makes in about 3 hours. She looked around the room at all these people who'd spent the evening treating her family like an amusing charity case. Preston, she said quietly, we're done. Preston's face went through several shades of pale before settling on a sickly green. Anna, you can't be serious. This is our engagement party. No, Anna said, her voice steady and clear. This is my education. She pulled the engagement ring off her finger, a 3-carat diamond that probably cost less than her father's daily earnings, and set it on the nearest table. Reginald stepped forward, trying to salvage the situation. Mr. Romano, surely we can discuss this like reasonable businessmen. These are emotional circumstances. Emotional? I asked. Mr. Whitfield, this is purely business. Your family signed a mortgage contract with specific character provisions. Those provisions have been violated. The loan is now due in full. Maria opened her portfolio and extracted a thick document. Loan acceleration notice, approved by Romano Financial's Board of Directors this afternoon. Sheriff's Department will serve formal papers Monday morning at 9 a.m. You prepared this before you even came here tonight? Catherine asked in horror. Standard procedure, said the board chairman. When character violations are documented through direct observation, Romano Financial acts swiftly to protect its interests and community values. Preston was frantically scrolling through his phone. I need to call my lawyer. By all means, I said. Though you should know that Romano Financial's legal department has been preparing for this contingency since Friday. We've reviewed all possible appeals, injunctions, and delaying tactics. Your family's options are quite limited. This is extortion, Reginald shouted, loud enough that other diners turned to stare. No, Maria said calmly. This is contract enforcement. Your son demanded $50,000 from a family he considered financially inferior. He made discriminatory statements about ethnic neighborhoods, suggested that families like ours should have weddings with paper plates, and explicitly told Mr. Romano that his immigrant family needed to learn their place in America. Romano Financial considers such behavior fundamentally incompatible with our community values. The older woman with diamonds, Mrs. Pemberton, I now remembered her name, finally spoke up. Reginald, what exactly did Preston say? Before Reginald could answer, Preston jumped in. I never said anything discriminatory. You said my family needed to learn our place in America, I reminded him. You laughed about banking services in ethnic neighborhoods. You told your friends that Anna managed to get through Stanford, like it was surprising that someone from our background could succeed academically. You suggested paper plates for our wedding reception. Anna looked at Preston with something approaching disgust. Is that really what you said? Anna, you're taking this out of context. Preston, she said quietly, 3 hours ago, you were entertaining your friends by talking about my family's financial problems. You made jokes about paper plates at our wedding. You treated my father like he was some kind of charity case you were graciously tolerating. I was just what? Just showing your true feelings when you thought there wouldn't be consequences? Maria handed me another document. Mr. Romano, there's also the matter of Preston's trust fund. Preston's eyes went wide. What about my trust fund? $600,000 managed through Romano Financial's private banking division. Recent withdrawal patterns suggest possible violations of trust provisions. What kind of violations? Catherine asked weakly. Expenditures inconsistent with character requirements, said the board chairman. Large cash withdrawals without proper documentation. Payments to luxury services while demanding financial contributions from families the beneficiary considers economically inferior. Trust fund guidelines specifically prohibit using inherited assets to exploit or demean others based on their perceived economic status. Preston's phone slipped from his hands and clattered on the marble floor. You're freezing my trust fund? Pending character review, Maria confirmed. Standard procedure when beneficiary behavior raises questions about fitness to manage inherited wealth responsibly. The silence in the room was deafening. Other yacht club members had stopped pretending not to watch. The Whitfield family's public humiliation was now entertainment for their entire social circle. "How long?" Reginald asked, his voice hollow. "How long for what?" I asked. "The foreclosure process. How long do we have?" 24 hours to produce $4.2 million in certified funds, Maria said. "After that, the property enters immediate foreclosure proceedings." "That's impossible," Catherine whispered. "We don't have that kind of liquid capital." "Perhaps," I suggested, "you could ask your friends here for a loan. I'm sure they'd be happy to help, given how much they've enjoyed discussing our family's financial situation tonight." The looks that passed between the yacht club members made it clear that no help would be forthcoming. These people were vultures, not friends. They'd enjoyed watching the Whitfields mock a poor immigrant family, but they had no interest in actually helping when the tables turned. Preston made one last desperate attempt. "Mr. Romano, this is about Anna and me. Don't let your hurt feelings destroy our future." "My hurt feelings?" I looked at him with genuine curiosity. "Preston, this isn't about hurt feelings. This is about character. You spent 8 months showing me yours. Now I'm showing you mine." Anna stepped closer to me. "Sir, Dad, what happens to their house?" "Standard foreclosure process," Maria explained. "Public auction. Proceeds go to satisfy the outstanding loan balance." "And if it sells for more than they owe?" "They keep the difference. If it sells for less, they remain liable for the shortfall." Reginald's face crumpled. "That house has been in my family for 4 generations." "And my family has been in America for 1 generation," I replied. "The difference is we built something instead of just inheriting it." Preston turned to Anna one more time. "Anna, please, we can work this out. Your father is being unreasonable." "No, Preston, he's being a father. Something you might understand if you'd ever respected the concept." She took my arm. "Dad, I think we should go." As we walked toward the exit, I heard Catherine Whitfield's voice behind us, shrill with panic. "Reginald, call the bank president. Call someone who can fix this." I turned back briefly. "Mrs. Whitfield, I am the bank president." The last thing I saw was Preston on his knees, frantically trying to gather the pieces of his shattered phone from the marble floor. The next morning, I was reading the Providence Journal with my coffee when Anna knocked on my door. She looked like she hadn't slept much, but there was something different in her eyes. Clearer, stronger. "Dad, we need to talk." We sat in my kitchen, the modest kitchen in the modest house that had apparently fooled an entire family of supposed sophisticates. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked. "About Romano Financial, about the money, about everything." I poured her coffee and thought about my answer. "Do you remember when you were applying to colleges, and I told you that you'd have to earn your way through scholarships and hard work?" "Yes, and I did. I worked my ass off." She stopped. "Wait, did I?" "You worked exactly as hard as I said you'd have to. You earned every grade, every achievement, every opportunity. The only difference is that I paid the bills instead of making you take loans." "But why lie about it?" "Because I wanted you to become Anna Romano, not Anthony Romano's daughter. I wanted you to know that you could succeed based on your own merit, not because Daddy wrote checks." She was quiet for a moment. "And Preston?" "Preston was a test you didn't know you were taking. I needed to see if he loved you enough to respect you regardless of what he thought your family's status was. He failed. Spectacularly." Anna's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and shook her head. 20th call from Preston this morning and 15 text messages. Saying what? That he's sorry. That he didn't mean it. That his family is in crisis and he needs my help to fix this. How do you feel about that? She was quiet for a long moment, like I dodged a bullet. "Dad, last night when I was lying awake, I kept thinking about the last 8 months. Every time Preston introduced me to his friends, he'd apologize for something. My clothes, my car, my job plans. He was constantly managing other people's perception of me, like I was a project he was trying to fix. And now I realized that the problem was never me. It was him and them." She looked around our kitchen. "This house isn't a step down from the Whitfield estate, is it? It's a choice you made. Every choice I've made for 26 years has been about building something real instead of just displaying wealth. Your mother and I decided that family mattered more than status." Anna smiled for the first time in weeks. "Mom would have loved this, wouldn't she? Watching you take down those snobs.
Your mother would have done it herself and probably with more style. My phone rang. Maria. Tony, you need to see the news. I turned on the television.
Channel 10 News was running a story about the Whitfield foreclosure. The reporter was standing in front of their Newport estate with a foreclosure notice sign clearly visible on the front lawn. The Whitfield family, longtime members of Newport's social elite, facing foreclosure on their historic family estate after what sources describe as discriminatory behavior violating their mortgage agreement with Romano Financial Group. Anna stared at the screen. It's really happening. The story continued. Preston Whitfield IV, an associate at the law firm Pemberton and Associates, has reportedly been dismissed from his position following what the firm calls conduct incompatible with professional standards. The Whitfield family has declined to comment, but sources close to the situation describe discriminatory statements made during a social gathering at the Newport Country Club. They fired him? Anna asked. My phone buzzed with a text from Maria. Pemberton and Associates called this morning. They don't want any association with the situation. Also, 5 other Newport families have requested meetings about refinancing their mortgages through Romano Financial. Word spreads fast in small communities. I showed Anna the text. Other families want to switch to your bank? Apparently, some people are impressed by an institution that stands by its values. The news story was still running. Romano Financial Group, founded by Italian immigrant Anthony Romano, has become one of New England's largest privately held banking institutions. The company's motto, building communities, not just wealth, appears to be more than just marketing. Anna looked at me with something approaching awe. Dad, how big is Romano Financial really? 80 branches, 2,000 employees, about $2 billion in assets. $2 billion? We started with $10,000 and a belief that every family deserves respect regardless of where they came from or what they drive. Her phone buzzed again. This time she answered. Hello, Preston. I could hear his voice through the phone, desperate and pleading. Preston, stop, Anna said firmly. What happened last night wasn't some misunderstanding that we can fix with an apology. You showed me who you really are when you thought there wouldn't be consequences. More desperate pleading. No, Preston, I don't want to meet for coffee. I don't want to work this out, and I definitely don't want to help you convince my father to reverse the foreclosure. A pause. Because you spent 8 months treating my family like we should be grateful for your attention. You made jokes about our background. You demanded money from people you thought were poor. You told my father that our immigrant family needed to learn our place in America. You don't get to apologize your way out of that. She hung up and immediately blocked his number. How does it feel? I asked. Scary, but also free? Like I don't have to pretend to be someone else anymore. My phone rang again. This time it was Judge Patricia Gonzalez, an old family friend. Tony, I just heard about the Whitfield situation. Is Anna okay? She's fine, Patricia. Better than fine. Good. Because I wanted you to know. 4 people called me this morning asking about your character. Apparently, some folks in Newport are trying to build a case that you acted improperly. And I told them exactly what I've known for 25 years. Anthony Romano is a man who keeps his word, honors his commitments, and doesn't tolerate disrespect toward his family or community. The Whitfields got exactly what they deserved. After I hung up, Anna looked at me with a question in her eyes. What happens now, Dad? Now? Now you get to be Anna Romano. No apologies. No explanations, just you? The news was still playing. The reporter had moved to downtown Providence, standing in front of Romano Financial headquarters. The immigrant success story that built an empire while staying true to its values. For Channel 10 News, this is Sarah Mitchell reporting. Anna squeezed my hand. I'm proud to be your daughter. 3 weeks later, Anna and I were having dinner at Russo's on Federal Hill, the same restaurant Preston had dismissed as inadequate for their wedding. The owner, Sal Russo, had insisted on preparing something special when he heard about Anna's engagement ending. Your daughter deserves better, he'd said simply, and any man who doesn't see that isn't worth the marinara sauce on his shoes. Anna was laughing more than she had in months. The stress lines around her eyes were gone. She looked like herself again. Dad, I have something to tell you. What's that? I got a call today from the Italian American Business Association. They want me to speak at their scholarship banquet next month about succeeding in business without compromising your values. That's wonderful. They also mentioned something about a $2 million scholarship fund that Romano Financial just established for first-generation college students. I smiled. Education is important in our family. You did that because of what happened with Preston, didn't you? I did it because every kid who works as hard as you did deserves the same opportunities, regardless of what neighborhood they come from or what their parents drive. Anna reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I'm proud to be your daughter, not because of the money, because of who you are. And I'm proud of the woman you've become. You stood up for yourself when it mattered. That took courage. I learned from the best. My phone buzzed with a news alert. The Whitfield estate had sold at auction that morning. A tech entrepreneur from Boston had bought it for $3.8 million. After legal fees and auction costs, the Whitfields would walk away with almost nothing. I showed Anna the notification. Do you feel bad for them? She asked. I feel bad that they chose arrogance over character, but I don't regret the consequences. Some lessons can only be learned the hard way. Anna nodded. Preston called one more time yesterday, from his parents' lawyer's office. What did he want? To apologize, to say he understood now that his behavior was wrong, to ask if there was any way. And what did you tell him? I told him that understanding you were wrong isn't the same as being right, and that some mistakes can't be fixed with apologies. Anna raised her wine glass. To new boundaries. To new boundaries, I agreed. As we drove home through Federal Hill, past the Romano Financial Branch office, past the neighborhood where I'd learned that hard work and respect matter more than inherited wealth, I thought about the lesson Preston Whitfield would spend the rest of his life learning. In America, you don't inherit respect. You earn it. And if you're watching this, tell me in the comments, have you ever been underestimated because of your background? Because I guarantee you, just like my family learned, the people who underestimate you will always regret it.